जय गोपीजन वल्लभा गिरिवरदा यशोदानंदन व्रजजन रंजन यशोदानंदन व्रजजन रंजन यमुना तीरा वनचारि यमुना तीरा वनचारि जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय गोपीजन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी जय गोपीजन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन व्रजजन रंजन यशोदानंदन व्रजजन रंजन यमुना तीरा वनचारि यमुना तीरा वनचारि जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा शील प्रभुपदा जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य श्रोत सदाशिव श्रीमद डिवाइन ग्रेस वेदांत स्वामी शील प्रभुपाद की जय। इस्कॉन संस्थापक आचार्य शील प्रभुपाद की जय। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य श्रोत सदाशिव श्रीमद भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज प्रभुपाद की जय। जय ओम विष्णुपाद नगौर किशोरदास महाराज की जय। जय ओम विष्णुपाद सच्चिदानंद सरस्वती भक्तों ठाकुरा की जय। जय ओम विष्णुपद वैष्णव सातम श्री जगन्नाथ दास महाराज की जय। जय श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ जी, श्री जीव गोपाल भट्ट सतपुरुषान प्रभु की नामाचार्य श्री ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवसादि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोकुल श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड के गोवर्धन की जय। श्री श्री गौरांगी बैंगलोरेश्वर भगवान की जय। श्री मायापुर धाम की जय। श्री अमदावाद धाम की जय। गंगा माई की जय, यमुना माई की जय, भक्ति देवी की तुलसी देवी की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव की जय। श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय, ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, इस्कॉन वर्तमान गुरुवंद की जय, समाज भक्तवृंद की जय, गौरव प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। All glories to the assembly. All glories to the assembly. All glories to the assembly. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Shri Prabhupada की जय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वती व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। नष्टप्रायेषु अपत्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। Hare Krishna. Welcome to today morning Friday morning Srimad Bhagavatam class. Today we are discussing from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 12, Text 35 and Text 36. I'll read first Text 35. तिलोकिं देवयानेन सोत्तीव्रज्य मुनीनपि परस्ताद् यत् ध्रुवगतिर्विष्णो पदम् अथाभ्यघात्। Translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Dhruva Maharaj thus surpassed the 7 planetary systems of the great sages who are known as Saptarishi. Beyond that region, he achieved the transcendental situation of permanent life in the planet where Lord Vishnu lives. The airplane was piloted by the two chief associates of Lord Vishnu, namely Swananda and Nanda. Only such spiritual astronauts can pilot their airplane beyond the 7 planets and arrive in the region of eternal blissful life. It is confirmed the Bhagavad Gita also, Parastasmat tu bhavonyah, that beyond this planetary system begins the spiritual sky, where everything is permanent and blissful. The planets there are known as Vishnu Loka or Vaikuntha Loka. Only there can one get an eternal blissful life of knowledge. Below Vaikuntha Loka is the material universe where Lord Brahma and others in Brahma Loka can live until the annihilation of this universe. But that life is not permanent. This also confirms the Bhagavad Gita, Abrahma Bhuvanal Lokaha. Even if one goes to the topmost planet, one cannot achieve eternal life. Only by arriving in Vaikuntha Loka can one live an eternally blissful life. Text 36. Yad Brajamanam Sparuchaiva Sarvato Lokastrayo hi Anuvid Brajantayete Yanna Brajan Jantushu Yen Anugraha Vajanti Batrani Charanti Nisham. Translation Srila. The self-effulgent Vaikuntha planets, by whose illumination alone all the illuminating planets within this material world give off reflected light, cannot be reached by those who are not merciful to other living entities. Only persons who constantly engage in welfare activities for other living entities can reach the Vaikuntha planets. Here is a description of 2 aspects of the Vaikuntha planets. The first is that in the Vaikuntha sky, there is no need of the sun and moon. This is confirmed by the Upanishads as well as Bhagavad Gita. Natad bhashayate suryo na shashanko na pavakaru. In the spiritual world, the Vaikuntha Lokas are themselves illuminated. There is therefore no need of sun, moon, or electric light. It is in fact the illumination of the Vaikuntha Lokas which is reflected in the material sky. Only by this reflection are the suns in the material universes illuminated. After the illumination of the sun, all the stars and moons are illuminated. In other words, all the luminaries in the material sky borrow illumination from Vaikuntha Loka. From this material world, however, people can be transferred to the Vaikuntha Loka if they incessantly engage in welfare activities for all other living entities. Such incessant welfare activities can really be performed only in Krishna consciousness. There is no philanthropic work within this material world but Krishna consciousness that can engage a person 24 hours a day. A Krishna conscious being is always engaged in planning how to take all of suffering humanity back home, back to Godhead. Even if one is not successful in reclaiming all the fallen souls back to Godhead, still because he is Krishna conscious, his path to Vaikuntha Loka is open. He personally becomes qualified to enter the Vaikuntha Lokas, and if anyone follows such a devotee, he also enters the Vaikuntha Loka. Others who engage in envious activities are known as karmis. Karmis are envious of one another. Simply for sense gratification, they can kill thousands of innocent animals. Jnanis are not as sinful as karmis, but they do not try to reclaim others back to Godhead. They perform austerities for their own liberation. Yogis are also engaged in self-aggrandizement by trying to attain mystic powers. But devotees, Vaishnavas, who are servants of the Lord, come forward in the actual field of working Krishna consciousness to reclaim fallen souls. Only Krishna conscious persons are eligible to enter into the spiritual world. That is clearly stated in this verse and is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, wherein the Lord says that there is no one dearer to him than those who preach the gospel of Bhagavad Gita to the world. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manopishtam Sthapitam Ena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamuhyam Tadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Udapadakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamsya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sargana Regunathanditam Tam Silam Sadvaitam Savadotam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Patan Sargana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamsya He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpade Gopesha Gupta Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Kaptakanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Shimanushte Devi Pranamami Haripriye Panchakalpatarubhisya Vasnubhesha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavaranda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Moham Karvati Vachalam Pangum Nalvedi Vindak Padam Hamund Shri Gurum Vedantarnam Parmandamadam Shri Chaitanya Ishwara. Hare Krishna. So here we see Dhruva Maharaj is going back to Godhead in a spiritual airplane, and in the first verse that I recited, it is mentioned as to how he crossed the air, he traveled the airplane and crossed the 7 planetary systems, and he was entering the abode of Vaikuntha planets, where life is eternal, blissful, and full of knowledge. So in the purport, Prabhupada mentions about 2 associates, Sunanda and Nanda, who were piloting the aircraft in which Dhruva Maharaj was traveling. So in the Vaikuntha planets, everything is eternal, blissful, knowledge, and all are worshipable on the same platform, just as the Lord is worshipped. Anything that is used in the service of the Lord is always related to the Lord, not different from the Lord. So we worship them, which I mentioned in the last week. So similarly, the aircraft can be flown only by the pilots from the spiritual world. The aircraft is different for Vaikuntha planets. The pilots are different. They are not from the material world. And as Dhruva Maharaj was going, he crossed all the 7 planetary systems, and he was going to enter the Vaikuntha Loka. So that means the material universe is just beneath the Vaikuntha Loka, and Brahma Loka is on the top of the other 7 planetary systems. So we will go through some important points here. Srila Prabhupada gives a reference to Bhagavad Gita as it is, quote, the translation of that is that, yet there is another unmanifest nature, which is eternal and is transcendental to this manifested and unmanifested matter. It is supreme and is never annihilated. When all in this world is annihilated, that part remains as it is. That means the spiritual, when there is an annihilation that takes place partially during every night of Brahma, and also there is a complete annihilation when Brahma's life comes to an end. So when this annihilation takes place, whether partial or complete, the spiritual world continues as it is because there is no destruction of the spiritual world. Spiritual world is eternal, blissful, and full of knowledge. And above the, now what happens is that there is a something called glowing effulgence that come out of the Vaikuntha planets, and that is called Brahma Jyoti. So Brahma Jyoti is a covering of the Vaikuntha planets, and that separates the material world from the spiritual world. And there is also another quote about how in the material world everything is temporary. Srila Prabhupada gives a quote from Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 8, 16, which says, Abrahma Bona Loka Punar Avartinorjuna Mam Upetya tu Kaunteya Punar Janmana Vidyate. Translation reads, from the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery wherein repeated birth and death take place. But one who attains to my abode, O son of Kunti, never takes birth again. So that means that right from the bottommost planet, that is Patala Loka, to the topmost planet called Brahma Loka, which is the residence of Lord Brahma and his associates or his devotees, all are in the material universe, which is subject to annihilation at the time, subject to annihilation at the end of destruction. So Sri Prabhupada mentioned that even if one goes to Brahma Loka, that also one cannot, in that also one cannot achieve an eternal life. But one can achieve this eternity by entering the Vaikuntha Loka. But before that, the Brahman effulgence comes. Then we go to text number 36. It says, the self-effulgent Vaikuntha planets by whose illumination alone all the illuminating planets within the universe, within this material world, give off reflected light, cannot be reached by those who are not merciful to other entities. And only those who constantly engage in welfare activities for other living entities can reach the Vaikuntha planets. So we'll understand some important points from this sloka. So one is, the Vaikuntha planets, there is no need of sun or moon. Everything is self-illuminating, whether it is living beings or the airplane itself or anything that is related there in the spiritual world. They don't require sun and moon like what we require. Here, one day, if there is no sun, we feel very dull. But one day we are not able to see the moon. Moon actually gives a lot of nourishment to the plants in the night. So sun is required in the material world, the moon is also required. But in the spiritual world, there is no need of sun or moon. That's what is given in Bhagavad Gita also. Natad bhashayate suryo na shashanko na pavakaha yad gatva na nivartante taddama paramam mama. Translation says, the supreme abode of mind is not illuminated by the sun or moon, nor by fire or electricity. Those who reach it never return to this material world. So that means in the Vaikuntha Loka, there are innumerable planets, of which Krishna Loka or Goloka Vrindavana is the topmost. And none of these Vaikuntha planets, there is a need for a sun or a moon, because everything is self-effulgent. And what we see here is actually that self-effulgence, that glowing effulgence that covers the body of the Lord, is called the spiritual sky, and that is what is called Brahma Jyoti. So this Brahma Jyoti is reflection. The reflection of the Brahma Jyoti falls on the sun, and from the sun it goes to the moon. That is how we get the sunlight. And the chief of the Vaikuntha planets is known as Goloka Vrindavana. So everything in the spiritual world is self-eliminating, and that reflection itself is sufficient enough for the inhabitants of the spiritual world to sustain. They don't require anything special. In the last class also, I mentioned about how Dhruva Maharaj, when he left his body, it transformed into a spiritual body from material body. Similarly, Narad Muni, when he left his material body, it transformed into a spiritual body which is self-effulgent. So that point is that everything in the spiritual world is self-effulgent. Now, there is a mention of how one can enter Vaikuntha Loka. Just like earthly planet has got some qualifications to be residing in the earthly planet, one who resides in the earth, he cannot make a permanent residence in water unless until some artificial arrangement is made. And those in the water, they cannot live on earth. For example, if you take a fish out of water and keep it on the earth, it will die in no moment. Similarly, we can't survive in water for a very long time unless until some artificial arrangement like oxygen cylinder and all these things are done. But naturally, if you see, every planetary system has got its own individual characteristics of living conditions. And there are living entities everywhere. Sun has got living entities, moon has got living entities. The intermediary planetary systems like Brahmaloka, Siddhaloka, they all have living entities. They may not be the same as what we see in Earth like human beings. They all have different forms and different consciousness. So there is a mention as to how one can enter the spiritual world. Now, welfare act, it is Srila Prabhupada mentions about the only way that one can enter the spiritual world is by performing welfare activities. Now, generally, when we say welfare activities, it is misunderstood. Now, welfare activity is basically trying to do something for the good of others. Now, any material activity performed as a welfare activity has got its own limitations. For example, one might donate a big sum of money to a school or a hospital, etc., by which what happens is that one accumulates a lot of pious results by which one can take birth in one or any of the heavenly planets. Similarly, one tries to gain knowledge. Srila Prabhupada also mentions about karmis and jnanis, etc. Karmis are those who are always envious of the others. And the jnanis are the ones who, for their own sense gratification, they can they try to speculate on the knowledge of the Lord. They want to perfect themselves, but neither do they perfect themselves, nor can they deliver the others. This is the situation of karmis and jnanis. But devotees of the Lord are very, very merciful, and they are called paradukka dukhi. That means they are pure devotees who feel miserable by seeing the suffering of other living entities. So there are two types of people. One is paradukka sukhi, and the other one is paradukka dukhi. The paradukka sukhi is basically a karmi type of a person who feels envious of other living entities if he sees someone better placed than himself. But devotees of the Lord are like paradukka dukhi. When they see someone suffering, they want to mitigate these sufferings of the suffering devotees. We'll take some example from the scriptures to reflect these points. Now, it is said in the Shastras that a sannyasi should not travel outside of the country. But Srila Prabhupada traveled to the foreign countries in a ship called Jaladuta. Because those days there was no aircraft and so forth. So it is also mentioned that sannyasi should not perform marriage ceremonies. But Srila Prabhupada conducted marriage ceremony for some of his disciples. And also he left this country by a boat which was against the injunctions of the Shastras. So when one time it is said that one of the disciples of Srila Prabhupada came to Srila Prabhupada and said that I want to divorce, take a divorce from my wife. And to which Srila Prabhupada immediately agreed. So then another disciple asked Srila Prabhupada, on what grounds you are permitting this divorce, which is against the intentions of the scriptures. So Srila Prabhupada mentioned that already he has broken one injunction of marrying without my permission. And now if I tell him that don't go for a divorce, I know that he will definitely go for a divorce. And what will happen is that he will do a Vaishnava aparad of disobeying my instructions as a spiritual master. That is a bigger offense. So Srila Prabhupada replied to his disciple. Another example is that it is said that once during Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj's time, one devotee approached him and he asked, what is the quality of a Vaishnava? Srila Prabhupada replied that a Vaishnava is one who is engaged in preaching, and it is the duty of one and all to engage in preaching. So he asked many of his disciples to engage in preaching, and he said, I'm old and I cannot manage this all alone. I've laid the groundwork for you all. So now you continue to preach. So this is the compassionate nature of a devotee of the Lord. Devotee of the Lord is always compassionate to other living entities. And it is only this compassionate nature that can take him to the spiritual world, so for which preaching is one of the more foremost. In fact, recently one of the Srila Prabhupada disciple was here, and he mentioned that there is no preaching exercise in the spiritual world because all are devotees of the Lord. So preaching is a very important aspect of devotional service. And Srila Prabhupada exhibited this quality of compassion during his time also, because he could have stayed very well in Vrindavan and preached, but he had his spiritual master's instruction also. And he also had a lot of compassion. He saw how people were not suffering due to being conditioned materially. So he had no facility for those days, nor he had any financial support. But still he was determined to travel, taking that austerities out of compassion for the living entities. Srila Prabhupada also established the Gurukul, which is used to preach to the downtrodden. And Srila Prabhupada was also very, very strict in his behavior, that he exhibited his compassion to even the lower species of life. One time it is said that during his time, there was a disciple who cut a tree. Srila Prabhupada got very, very angry on him. He said, you have killed a tree now. The devotee was giving so many excuses, but still Srila Prabhupada was very strong. And he said, no, you have killed a tree, which is an offense. So this way, the Srila Prabhupada extended his compassionate nature even to living entities like trees. So Srila Prabhupada traveled in this Jalatursa ship at a very old age because he had faith in the holy name and the instruction of his spiritual master. Some examples of compassion are Haridas Thakura. He was born in a Mohammedan family, but he always had the desire to deliver others. So he was always chanting the holy name of the Lord. It is said that he used to chant 3 lakh names, which comes to about 162 rounds per day, which is almost, and he used to take 22 hours a day. So in other words, in the remaining 2 hours, he used to do all his activities, whether sleeping or eating, whatever it is. Whereas the 22 hours, he used only for chanting the name of the Lord. So one time, the Kasi was very upset with Haridas Thakura because he thought some of the messengers in the Kasi complained to the Kasi saying that Haridas Thakur is born in a Mohammedan family, but he's chanting the name of Hindu gods and he's promoting this concept. So when the king got angry, he asked Haridas Thakur to be put in prison house. So many like that who chanted the holy name of the Lord were all put in prison. And Haridas Thakur also was put in the prison. And then when Haridas Thakura was put in the prison, he saw many of them inside. And there were many innocent people, and they asked Haridas Thakura for Haridas Thakura's blessings. So Haridas Thakura said, may you be in the same situation forever. Now, when they heard this blessing, they were all disappointed. So they had a misconception that they will be living in the jail eternally. They didn't understand what was the real purpose of the blessings of Haridas Thakura. So when Haridas Thakura saw the mood of the other devotees, then he explained that his meaning was that they should become delivered from the cycle of birth and death. And then they realized, yes, that was the true blessings that was given to them. This was Haridas Thakura's compassion nature. Then the Kasi also wanted Haridas Thakura to stop chanting, but Haridas Thakura said no. And he protested by saying that I'm not promoting Hinduism, rather I'm promoting Sanatana Dharma, which is the duty of all living human beings who are born in this earthly planet. Then the Kasi said that you are born in a Mohammedan family. Why you are chanting the Lord's names, Hindus' Lord's names? So there's a long conversation. We'll pick up some of the important points from this. Haridas Thakura said that even if you cut my body to thousands of pieces, every part of the body will be chanting the Lord's names. Because Haridas Thakura used to always chant the Lord's names. And then he said that if you further cut it into 1,000,000 pieces, still all the parts of my body will be chanting the Mahamantra. You can do whatever punishment you want, you like. You may, but later on, it is said that the Kasi managed to have Haridas Thakura beaten in 22 marketplaces. Those days, it was said that one cannot survive beyond 1 or 2 marketplaces, but Haridas Thakura was beaten in 22 marketplaces. The executioners, they were trying to beat Haridas Thakura very, very severely. But still, Haridas Thakura, there was no effect because he constantly chanted the holy name of the Lord, irrespective of whatever austerities he had to undergo. In spite of all this, Haridas Thakura never stopped chanting of the holy name even for a moment. Then the executioners who were beating Haridas Thakura, they were beating him very severely. Then they told Haridas Thakura that if the Qazi comes to know that nothing has happened to you, we will be in deep trouble. So then Haridas Thakura told the executioners, okay, now then you go ahead and you tell that Haridas Thakura is dead. So Haridas Thakura went into Samadhi, and finally they thought that Haridas Thakura has left his body. So they took the body and they thought the best way to dispose of his body is to throw him into the Ganges River. And when his body was thrown into the Ganges River, after some time, Haridas Thakura coolly walked out of the Ganges water as if nothing has happened. So when Mahaprabhu performed the Mahaprakash Leela, at that time, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu revealed himself as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in front of Haridas, so many associates of the Kasi were coming, and they all were surprised when they saw that Haridas Thakura was coming out of the water without any harm on himself. So when Mahaprabhu performed the Mahaprakash Leela, then Mahaprabhu actually showed to Haridas Thakura as to how when Haridas Thakura was being beaten, Mahaprabhu sent his Sudarshan Chakra to kill the executioners of Haridas Thakura. But the Sudarshan Chakra had no value because all the time Haridas Thakura, when he was being beaten, one was he was chanting the holy name of the Lord, which protected him. Also, he was also praying for the welfare of the executioners who were beating him. That let them also become Krishna consciousness. This is the compassionate nature of Sri Haridas Thakura. That is, anybody else in Haridas Thakura's place would think or rather seek revenge. But Haridas Thakura, instead of seeking revenge, he prayed to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for their welfare. Due to his compassionate nature, Haridas Thakura was very much compassionate, seeing the suffering conditions of all the living beings. And when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked, he said, I will want all the living entities to be delivered. This was the compassionate nature of Haridas Thakura. Another example is Bali Maharaj, who rejected his own guru to please Vaman Dev. Then there is an example of Prahlad Maharaj, whose compassionate nature I will explain now. Prahlad Maharaj is a Mahajan who are authorities when it comes to knowledge of the Supreme Lord, and they set by example their characteristics. So Prahlad Maharaj was beaten by by his father Hiranyakashipu's servants. Then he was put into fire. He was thrown from a mountain. He was thrown into water, boiling water. But though Prahlad Maharaj was undergoing all these austerities, all these difficulties, he, after being delivered, he offered prayers to Lord Narasimhadev. I'll read three prayers, the translation of which is like that. In 7941, Prahlad Maharaj says, My dear Lord, you are always transcendentally situated on the other side of the river of death. But because of the reactions of our own activities, we are suffering on this side. Indeed, we have fallen into this river and are repeatedly suffering the pains of birth and death and eating horrible things. Now kindly look upon us, not only upon me, but also upon all others who are suffering. And by your costless mercy and compassion, deliver us and maintain us. So in this sloka, Prahlad Maharaj is asking for Lord Narasimhadev's mercy, not only upon himself, but also the other living entities who are all suffering. And he says, only by your costless mercy and compassion, we can be delivered. Then in text number 43, the translation says, O best of great personalities, I am not at all afraid of material existence. For wherever I stay, I am fully absorbed in thoughts of your glories and activities. My concern is only for the fools and rascals who are making elaborate plans for material happiness and maintaining their families in a sense of family, societies, and countries. Then he says, I'm simply concerned with love for them. So in this particular sloka, Prahlad Maharaj is always expressing his concern for the others who are all suffering, whether they be in the within their family or those who have attachment for nation, for societies, etc. He says that my concern is only my love for them. And it is because of that I'm praying, seeking your mercy, so that they also be delivered. Then in text number 44, Prahlad Maharaj says, My dear Lord Narasimhadeva, I see that there are many saintly persons, indeed, but they are interested only in their own deliverance. This is an important point that many try to, like Srila Prabhupada mentions about karmis. Karmis are normally engaged in sense gratification and they are envious of each other. But the jnanis, they are not as sinful as karmis, but they do not try to reclaim others back to Godhead. And they perform austerities for their own liberation. So jnanis try to gain knowledge and end up in speculative knowledge. Rather, they are concerned about their own benefit. They are not concerned about the welfare of others. But devotees of the Lord, they are very, very compassionate. Like the example, discuss the example of Prahlad Maharaj, where they want the others to be delivered. Then further, Prahlad Maharaj says, not caring for the big cities and towns, they go to the Himalayas or forests to meditate with vows of silence. They are not interested in delivering others. But as far as me, I do not wish to be liberated alone, leaving aside all these poor fools and rascals. I know that without Krishna consciousness, without taking shelter of your lotus feet, one cannot be happy. Therefore, I wish them back to shelter at your lotus feet. So here also Prahlad Maharaj in these prayers, he says that many might try to achieve liberation by their own self, maybe the jnanis, and they don't want any the others to be delivered. But Prahlad Maharaj says that without Krishna consciousness, without taking shelter of your lotus feet, no one can be happy. And I want all the suffering living entities to come back to take the shelter of the Lord's lotus feet. Similarly, in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastime, there was a devotee called Vasudeva Datta. He used to pray that let me take the reactions of all the karmic reactions of all the living entities, but others should become free from that. This is how devotees are very, very compassionate in nature. There is one more example we will take. This is from Chaitanya Charitamrita, where one time Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave instructions to Srila Haridas Thakura and Nityananda Prabhu. He said, go out and preach my order everywhere. He said, go to every house and beg in this way. Chant the names of Krishna. Worship Krishna. Follow Krishna's instruction. In fact, there's a very popular verse. I didn't take the verse. Bhaja Krishna, Bala Krishna, Bhaja Krishna, and so forth. That means he said that you chant the names of Krishna, worship Krishna, and follow Krishna's instructions. And he said, go and preach this to door everywhere. So Haridas Thakur and Nityananda Prabhu started doing this. And everywhere they would go and say that Krishna is your life, Krishna is your wealth, Krishna is your very life and soul. Oh brothers, please chant the name of Krishna with full attention. So one day, both Haridas Thakur and Nityananda Prabhu, they saw two drunkards who were fully intoxicated and were acting like rogues. So though they were born in Brahmana families, they committed to drinking wine, liquor, eating beef, and they also perform many abominable activities like stealing and burning others' wealth, etc. So they would roll on the ground and out of intoxication and punch each other and punch whoever comes on way. And many of them watched these two people, and they saw Nityananda Prabhu and Haridas Thakur also arrive at the scene. So when the two came, Jagai and Madai actually out of intoxication were punching each other. And Nityananda Prabhu asked many people as to which caste they belong, what is their nature. So people replied that these are the two sons of Brahmanas, and their father and mother come from very highly respectable families, and their ancestors lived in Nadia and have commanded a lot of respect. But these two have given up that religiosity and taken to sinful life, and they have been rejected by their relatives. So they behave in such a way that the residents have fear for them, as they might burn their houses. There is no sin that these two people have not committed. So hearing this, then Nityananda Prabhu contemplated on how these two can be delivered. In fact, Nityananda Prabhu had appeared only for this purpose. So Nityananda Prabhu thought to himself one day that if the Lord bestows his mercy on these two, then the whole world will know the glories of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. If I can reveal Lord Chaitanya to them, then I, Nityananda, will be known as Lord Chaitanya's servant. And now that they are fully intoxicated and they don't want to know themselves, they should be intoxicated in Krishna's names. Then Nityananda Prabhu told Haridas Thakur, look at their miserable condition. Of course, there is some more which I didn't take it. One time when they went to preach to Jagai and Madai, these two drunkards were known as Jagai and Madai. The two Jagai and Madai, they started running after Nityananda Prabhu and Haridas Thakura. Haridas Thakura was feeling a bit scared, not really, but then he went to Advaita Acharya. He said to Advaita Acharya, what sort of person is this Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? That he asked us to preach door to door. We are preaching and these people are drunk and they are trying to kill us. And in the meantime, Nityananda Prabhu was thinking that he should exhibit his compassionate nature and see that these two drunkards are delivered. Many people, in fact, advised the Nityananda Prabhu and Haridas Thakura, saying that these people don't have any respect for Brahmanas or sannyasis, so better don't go. So Nityananda Prabhu and Haridas Thakura went, and when hearing this, both of them got very angry with red eyes. They ran towards Nityananda Prabhu and Haridas Thakura, trying to say, catch them, catch them. So both of them started running. Then the two ropes, both of them started to abuse both Haridas Thakura and Nityananda. So Nityananda Prabhu said, it is good if they become Vaishnavas, but today our life is in danger. Haridas Thakura said, what Lord can I say? Today I will die prematurely because of your ideas. Because you have tried to give Krishna's instructions to these two drunkards, we have received punishment of losing our life. This way they both went really. So that both Jagai and Madai said, where will you run today? You cannot escape from this Jagai and Madai. Wait for a moment and see what is happening to you. So seeing this, both of them started running and they started praying to the Lord, save us Krishna, hey Govinda. So in this way, they were discussing, and then Nityananda Prabhu thought himself that I will end up losing my life. I'm not a restless person, but it was the Lord who agitated them to go and preach. And he thought that although these people are Brahmanas behaving like this, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave orders like a king. And on his instruction, we are going door to door preaching. But he has never given orders like this before, and never have people come up like these who are thieves and hypocrites. Now, if we disobey the orders, we will be finished. And if we follow them, we are losing our life. This way, Nityananda Prabhu and Chaitanya Haridas Thakura were talking to each other. Now, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Vishwambara, he was smiling. He knew what was happening. So, another time when the two drunkards were wandering from place to place, they came to the ghat where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was bathing. Now, no one would go to this ghat alone, but they would go normally in 10s or 20s to avoid these two drunkards. So, Nityananda Prabhu also one day went to the sea and Jagai and Madai, and it was around night time. So they asked him, when they went, they asked Nityananda Prabhu, who are you? To which the Lord replied that I am going to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's house. They asked, what is your name? He said, I am Nityananda Prabhu and my name is Avaduta. So Nityananda Prabhu decided that the Lord had already decided to deliver them. Therefore, when he said that his name was Avaduta, the Madai got very, very angry. He picked up a broken clay pot and hit on Nityananda Prabhu's head. And Nityananda Prabhu's head got injury and then blood started coming out of the wound. As soon as Jagai saw this, he became a little bit compassionate on Nityananda Prabhu. He picked up the hand of Madai and he stopped him from striking again. With the first strike itself, Nityananda Prabhu got some blood and he out of that injury. Second time when he was about to strike Nityananda Prabhu, Jagai actually stopped and withheld his hand. He said, why did you do that? You are very cruel. What will you get by beating an outsider? Leave this Avaduta. Do not beat him. What will you get by beating a sannyasi? So when common people saw this, they went and informed Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu got very, very angry when he saw Nityananda Prabhu's body, which was stained with full blood. Still, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu picked up his Sudarshan Chakra. He called out for Chakra, Chakra, Chakra. And the Sudarshan Chakra immediately appeared. And Jagai and Madai, when they saw that, and all the devotees also became bewildered. So at that time, Nityananda Prabhu exhibited his compassionate nature. He said that when Madai hit me, it was Jagai who saved me. And by providence, blood came out and I felt no pain. So give me these two people in charity. You may be pacified, I have no pain. Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he stopped the chakra. On hearing Nityananda Prabhu's words, that Jagai protected me, the Lord became very happy and embraced Jagai. And he said to Jagai May Krishna bestow mercy on you by protecting Nityananda. By protecting Nityananda, you have purchased me. You ask for any benediction you desire. And then Lord bless them that may you attain pure devotional service from this day onwards. And then when the people around, they heard this, they all started saying Jai Hari, Jai Hari, Jai Hari. So this is how the Lord delivered both Jagai and Madai out of his compassionate nature of Lord Nityananda Prabhu's request. So there are many examples, of course, but I'm not getting into those. And Srila Prabhupada concludes in the purport of today's sloka saying that only Krishna conscious persons are eligible to enter into the spiritual world. And the only welfare act, the purport is mentioned that only by a proper welfare activity can one enter the spiritual world. And he defines what is a welfare activity. He says only Krishna conscious person, that means those who are engaged in Krishna consciousness activities, and those who give this Krishna consciousness to others, that is the greatest welfare activity. The reason, as I mentioned in the beginning of the class, that whatever welfare activity you might do by giving charity to schools or hospitals, in the next birth, the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam mentions as to how you get repaid in the next life by doing this charitable work. Or the second canto also mentions about what is the rate and which proportionate rate by which you get rewarded for giving this charity to various classes of people. For example, if you give a charity to a hospital, you may get returned the same way in the next birth. But if you give it in charity to a Krishna conscious devotee, then you get returned in much more, multiple times. So the conclusion is that Krishna conscious activities are the greatest welfare activity. And only one who performs this type of a welfare activity can be elevated to the spiritual world. That is the conclusion of today's sloka. Srila Prabhupada also mentions about the concluding session or concluding sloka in Bhagavad Gita, where he says that there is no one dearer to him than who preaches the teachings of Bhagavad Gita to the others. So Krishna, one who preaches the teachings of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam to others, he becomes very, very dear to the Lord, and there is no one more dear to the Lord than the one who preaches. So this is the conclusion of today's sloka. With this, I conclude the class for the day. Any of you, if you have got any questions or comments, you can ask me.
Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
You for the wonderful explanation, Prabhu. Prabhu, is this the first time that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu shows his anger, or is it there? So it's not directly related to the class, but then you mentioned about the pastime of Jagai and Madai.
Yes.
So is this the only time that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu shows his angry mood, or is there anywhere else also?
There are, even when Mahaprabhu exhibited his Mahaprakash Leela, he exhibited some anger at that time also, not out of the pastime, but when he calls for the devotees, he expresses anger with strong words as to how Haridas Thakura suffered. In fact, he tells Haridas Thakura that it was I who took the beatings when you are being beaten by the executioners of the Qazi. And then Mahaprabhu actually opens his chadar and shows how he took the beatings, and he showed the beating marks which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took. So it's not the only time, but whatever anger that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or even Lord Krishna exhibit, it is transcendental in nature. It is not anger like us. When Krishna was killing Kamsa, similarly he exhibited his fight cannot happen without anger. So Shastras explain that whenever the Lord or his incarnations, or even as a matter of fact, pure devotees, when they exhibit their anger, it is transcendental in nature. It is not due to lusty desires or lusty activities. So their anger is also a sort of mercy to the conditioned souls.
Perfect, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
And Chaitanya Bhagavat also, there are some mentions about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sometimes getting angry in his pastimes. Generally, these are compassionate anger exhibited out of compassion.
Okay.
Is it clear, Prabhu?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Means all the pastimes now offhand, I can pick up, and maybe next time I can give you those instances.
Sure. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
And any other questions or comments, Prabhu? There are no questions or comments. I am taking the class as closed. Thank you all very much. Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.